Join me as I challenge myself to stop caring about what others think for an entire week. Let's see how it goes. Caring too much about what others think can be a huge burden on our lives, relationships, and decision-making. It's like having a constant voice in our heads, whispering what we should do, say, or be. This voice can be overwhelming, making us doubt our choices and second-guess ourselves. We might find ourselves trying to fit into someone else's mold, rather than being true to who we are. Caring about what others think can also lead to people-pleasing, which can be exhausting. We might say yes to every invitation, even if we don't want to go, just to avoid hurting someone's feelings. We might change our opinions or behaviors to fit in with a particular group, even if it doesn't feel authentic to us. This can lead to feelings of resentment and frustration, as we sacrifice our own needs and desires to please others. It's like we're living in a constant state of seeking approval, rather than being confident in our own skin. This need for approval can be rooted in our childhood experiences, where we learn to seek validation from our parents, teachers, or peers. As we grow older, this need can evolve into a deep-seated desire for social acceptance. We might feel like we need to conform to certain standards or norms in order to be liked or accepted by others. But the truth is, we can't control how others think or feel about us. All we can control is how we think and feel about ourselves. The impact of caring too much about what others think can be far-reaching. It can affect our mental health, our relationships, and even our career choices. We might choose a certain path because it's what's expected of us, rather than what we truly want. We might stay in unhealthy relationships because we're afraid of what others will think if we leave. We might even hide our true selves, afraid of being judged or rejected. But what if we could break free from this cycle of seeking approval? What if we could learn to love and accept ourselves, just as we are? The central challenge we face is balancing our self-identity with societal expectations. We want to fit in and be accepted by others, but we also want to be true to ourselves. This can be a delicate balancing act as we navigate different social situations and relationships. We might feel like we're being pulled in different directions, unsure of which path to take. For example, we might feel pressure to conform to certain beauty standards, but at the same time, we want to express our individuality. We often face these challenges in our daily lives, whether it's at work, school, or in our personal relationships. We might feel like we're walking on eggshells, trying not to offend anyone or say the wrong thing. We might be afraid to speak up or share our opinions, fearing that others will judge us or disagree with us. But this fear can hold us back from truly connecting with others and being our authentic selves. When we're too focused on what others think, we can miss out on meaningful relationships and experiences. In social situations, we might find ourselves comparing ourselves to others, feeling like we don't measure up. We might feel like we're in a competition where we need to be the most popular, successful, or attractive. But this mindset can be toxic, leading to feelings of inadequacy and low self-esteem. We might start to doubt our own worth and value, feeling like we're not good enough. But what if we could shift our focus away from comparing ourselves to others, and instead focus on our own strengths and passions? We often seek validation through social media, where we curate a highlight reel of our lives. We might post pictures or updates that make us look happy, successful, or popular, even if that's not entirely true. We might get caught up in the likes and comments, feeling like we need to present a perfect image to the world. But this can be a never-ending cycle, as we constantly seek more validation and approval. We might feel like we're living in a virtual reality, rather than the real world. The psychology behind seeking approval is complex, involving a mix of social, emotional, and psychological factors. We might be driven by a deep-seated need for love and acceptance stemming from our childhood experiences. We might be afraid of rejection or abandonment, leading us to people-please and seek constant validation. But when we understand the root causes of our behaviors, we can start to break free from these patterns. We can learn to recognize when we're seeking approval, and instead focus on building our self-esteem and confidence. There are many real-life examples of people overcoming the challenge of caring too much about what others think. We might see celebrities or public figures who have spoken out about their struggles with self-acceptance. We might read stories of people who have overcome bullying, body shaming, or other forms of social ridicule. These stories can be inspiring, showing us that it's possible to rise above the opinions of others and be our authentic selves. One key insight that can help us overcome this challenge is the importance of self-acceptance and authenticity. When we learn to love and accept ourselves just as we are, we're no longer dependent on the approval of others. We can be confident in our own skin without needing to seek validation from others. This doesn't mean we don't care about others or their opinions, but rather that we're not controlled by them. We can be free to be ourselves without apology or pretension. A powerful quote that illustrates this insight is one by Oscar Wilde, who said, "To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance." When we learn to love and accept ourselves, we can have a deeper, more meaningful relationship with ourselves and others. We can be more authentic, more genuine, and more at peace with who we are. This can be a powerful turning point, where we shift from seeking approval to seeking self-acceptance. As we reflect on our own lives, we might realize that we've been seeking approval in various ways. We might see how this has held us back from being our true selves and from living the life we truly want. We might feel a sense of regret or frustration, but we can also feel a sense of hope and possibility. We can start to make changes to focus on building our self-esteem and confidence. We can learn to love and accept ourselves just as we are. The importance of self-acceptance and authenticity cannot be overstated. When we're true to ourselves, we can live a more authentic, meaningful life. We can have deeper, more meaningful relationships with others, and we can be more at peace with ourselves. We can be free from the constant need for approval, and instead focus on our own strengths, passions, and values. This can be a liberating experience, where we feel like we can finally be ourselves. In summary, caring too much about what others think can be a huge burden on our lives, relationships, and decision-making. We need to find a balance between being considerate of others and staying true to ourselves. We can do this by building our self-esteem and confidence, and by focusing on our own strengths and passions. We can learn to love and accept ourselves just as we are, and be free from the constant need for approval. To find this balance, we need to be aware of our thoughts and behaviors. We need to recognize when we're seeking approval, and instead focus on building our self-esteem and confidence. We can do this by practicing self-care, setting boundaries, and being more mindful of our relationships. We can also surround ourselves with positive, supportive people who encourage us to be our authentic selves. Ultimately, the key to overcoming the challenge of caring too much about what others think is to focus on our own self-acceptance and authenticity. When we learn to love and accept ourselves, we can be free from the constant need for approval, and instead live a more authentic, meaningful life. We can have deeper, more meaningful relationships with others, and be more at peace with ourselves. We can start to make changes today by being more mindful of our thoughts and behaviors. We can start to focus on building our self-esteem and confidence, and be more aware of when we're seeking approval. We can take small steps towards being more authentic and genuine, and see how it feels to be true to ourselves.
Let's summarize the key points. Caring too much about what others think can be a burden. We need to find a balance between being considerate and staying true to ourselves. And we can do this by building our self-esteem and confidence. By focusing on our own strengths and passions, we can learn to love and accept ourselves, just as we are. Join the conversation in the comments below and share your own experiences with caring too much about what others think. Check out another video on self-esteem and personal growth. And let's continue the journey of self-discovery and empowerment together.